After studying abroad for a year, the company I funded and founded was managed entirely by my husband, Liam. Yet, every month on payday, I would invariably receive a salary payment from Liam, paid from his own earnings. The note would always read, "Hard work, my dear wife." Everyone envied me for marrying such a wonderful husband. Then, 3 days before our wedding anniversary, he posted 2 movie tickets on his social media post, with the caption, "Meet you at our usual spot." I immediately understood his hint. I stayed up 2 nights to finish my thesis and then took a red-eye flight home on our anniversary to surprise him. But when I swiped my access card at the CEO's office door, it kept denying me access. I was wondering if I'd gone to the wrong office when the door suddenly opened from the inside. A young, beautiful, and vibrant woman opened the door. She scrutinized me from head to toe, then smiled and held up a card. "Liam's office is exclusive to me as his executive. Everyone else needs to schedule an appointment with the secretarial team." My first reaction was that I had indeed made a mistake. After all, Liam had specifically promised me he would never hire a female assistant. As a show of his absolute loyalty, my apologies. I seem to be in the wrong place. "It's alright, big sister. Just make sure you remember your place from now on. Some places aren't just for anyone to casually enter." Her voice was as sweet and charming as ever, but I couldn't shake the feeling she was making sarcastic remarks yet. I didn't know her, so she had no reason to be rude. Had I misheard? Filled with a strange confusion, I walked to the main office area and looked up to see 4 dazzling gilded letters. Summit. It was indeed the company I had invested in and helped Liam establish, wasn't it? I had even changed the name on our wedding day as a declaration of love for Liam. I walked to the elevator bank, completely bewildered, and dialed Liam's phone. "When did you hire a female assistant?" His voice was somewhat muffled. "What are you talking about? I'm busy right now. I'll call you back later, sweetheart." Before I could say anything, he hung up. The next second, the elevator doors in front of me chimed open. Liam stepped out, carrying several large bags of anime merchandise in both hands. The moment our eyes met, he widened his eyes in surprise. "Grace, you're back so suddenly." I didn't look at him, my gaze fixed on the pile of merchandise, my brows slowly furrowing. "What are these?" Liam reacted quickly, though a hint of panic he couldn't quite conceal lingered in his eyes. "Of course, I knew you were coming back, so I specially bought them as gifts for you." "For me?" I hadn't looked at such things since I graduated elementary school. I sneered inwardly, suppressing my anger as much as possible. "You knew I was coming back, but did you know why I came back?" Liam chuckled, full of self-importance. "Of course, you missed your husband, and I missed you too, baby. It's been a year. I missed you terribly." He even winked at me. "Come here. Let your husband give you a kiss." My stomach suddenly churned. He had completely forgotten it was our anniversary today. So, the movie tickets weren't for me, and the person he was waiting for wasn't me either. I was about to confront him when a sickeningly sweet female voice suddenly called from behind me. "Liam, you're back. Did you get the limited edition items I asked for?" Chloe trotted over, naturally linking her arm through Liam's. The dizziness from 2 sleepless nights suddenly overwhelmed me, and my temples throbbed. Liam, why are you out running errands for her during work hours instead of being in your office? Who is she?" "You'd better give me an explanation." Chloe suddenly gasped. You're the one from earlier." She looked like she had just realized something. "I'm so sorry, Grace. Your photos are so heavily edited that I didn't recognize you at the office door earlier. You wouldn't blame me, would you?" She intentionally pouted, acting cute in a very artificial way. I stared at her coldly. "Do I know you?" Liam subtly shielded Chloe behind him. "Grace, weren't you supposed to stay abroad for 2 years? Why are you back after just 1? Chloe is an assistant I hired. She just graduated this year. Employment is tough these days, so hiring her counts as increasing employment and contributing to society." Chloe's voice sounded like acting cute, and also like challenging me. "Yes, Grace, thanks to Liam's kindness, I found such a good job right after graduating." Liam was worried I wouldn't have money to spend right after graduation, so he even offered me a salary of $200,000 a month. Otherwise, I really don't know how I'd survive in this city. "How much?" $200,000? Seeing's guilty conscience, a surge of anger rushed through me. What kind of fresh graduate, as an assistant no less, do you pay $200,000 a month? To put it nicely, you're covering her living expenses. To put it bluntly, you're outright supporting her, aren't you? Liam's face flushed beet red. "Grace, why are your thoughts so twisted? You don't even come to work. and I still pay your salary every month without fail. Chloe, on the other hand, genuinely works for me. What's wrong with me paying her a higher salary? He pays my salary? Was he referring to the $5 million I paid him monthly, of which he never failed to transfer 50.1 to me on payday? When he first said he wanted to start a business, I bought this company for him to practice with, pouring tens of millions into it to cover his deficits. Was I short on 50 or short on his I love you? I couldn't help but sneer. I once said that as long as someone has real talent, gender isn't an issue. You're the one who insisted, under the guise of loving me, that you'd never hire female assistants. Now you're going back on your word. If you want to replace me, just say so. Grace, don't need you. Liam's face went pale, like a punctured balloon, instantly losing air. Grace, don't be angry. If you think the salary I set for Chloe is unreasonable, we can discuss it slowly. It's not worth getting worked up over such a small matter. Besides, you came all the way back from abroad. Is it just to argue with me? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. A scumbag and conniving woman were indeed not worth getting sick over. But just as I started to compose myself, the automatic doors next to us suddenly opened. A group of young employees streamed out, surrounding Chloe like she was the center of attention, their voices full of envy. Wow, Chloe, the CEO really spoils you. He even personally got you the limited edition items. Chloe generously handed out a few bags to them. These are for you instantly. Exclamations of praise filled the air. The CEO's wife is so generous. Chloe is so kind, always thinking of us. Chloe's face radiated thinly veiled vanity. We're all classmates. When have I ever treated you badly? She deliberately glanced at me, as if showing off. Didn't I immediately ask Liam to hire you all as soon as I joined the company? And our salaries and benefits are all based on my standards. I instantly understood. No wonder when I passed the main office area earlier, I noticed that all the veteran employees I had personally hired, who had stuck with us since the startup phase, were gone. In their place were young people roughly Chloe's age, had actually fired all those experienced, diligent key staff just to make room for Chloe and her classmates. I pulled out my phone, trembling as I opened the company's quarterly financial report, staring in disbelief at the numbers. In just 1 year, the company's market value had plummeted by more than half, and net profit had fallen drastically, the red loss arrows stinging my eyes. For the past year, I had dedicated myself to my studies, entrusting the company entirely to Liam, giving him my complete trust. Was this how he repaid me? If I was merely angry when I discovered Liam's infidelity earlier, I was now absolutely furious. I could dismiss a man, but if that man dared to squander my hard work, I would certainly teach him the consequences of his actions. Seeing my displeasure as I stared at the merchandise in Liam's hands, Chloe proactively offered me a bag. Grace, I didn't know you were suddenly coming back, so I didn't prepare a welcome gift. Please accept this limited edition item as a gift from Liam and me to celebrate your return. I swung my arm, and with a whoosh, dolls and cards tumbled out of the torn packaging, scattering across the floor. Liam immediately pulled Chloe into an embrace. Furious, his eyes bulging as if he wanted to devour me. Grace, Chloe was kindly giving you a gift. What are you doing? I scoffed. What am I doing? I haven't even asked what you've been doing this past year while I was gone. I pressed closer with each question. Liam was forced to retreat step by step until his back hit the wall with a thump. Where are the old employees? How were these new people hired? Where are the written test records? Where are the evaluation reports for the 3 rounds of interviews? Where are the quarterly performance review forms? What are their job classifications? How were their salaries determined? You're going to explain all of this to me, every single detail. Liam's face alternated between green and white, his lips moved, but he couldn't utter a single word. Chloe, however, started crying first. Liam, is Big Sister, is she trying to get rid of me and my classmates? Will we all be jobless now that Big Sister is back? Liam frantically pulled tissues from his pocket, clumsily wiping her tears, his voice full of sympathy. Chloe, don't worry, I run this company. As long as I'm here, no one can get rid of you or your classmates. He suddenly turned to me, scowling. Employment is so tight right now. If you fire them, where will these fresh graduates find jobs? Grace, how can you be so heartless? I was practically laughing at him, but before I could speak, Chloe suddenly pushed Liam away, wiping her tears as she walked out. I've upset Grace. I'll leave now. I just beg Grace not to fire my classmates. They're innocent. Liam wrapped his arms around her from behind. No, Chloe, don't go. There are so many hiring scams out there. You're so naive. How can I let you go look for a job alone? Chloe shook her head, crying in his arms. Liam has been so good to me. He not only arranged jobs for me and my classmates but also gave us such good benefits. He even worried about me, a single girl, renting alone. So he let me live at his house without paying any rent. I'd rather starve to death in this city than cause Liam any more trouble. Fine, I stood there, nodding repeatedly. So they had been living together for a long time, in our marital home that I bought, using the furniture I picked out, sleeping in the large bed I specifically had custom made for our wedding. But it didn't matter anymore. I had no intention of keeping a man someone else had used. All I wanted now was to reclaim everything that was mine. I spoke, cutting off their sickening display of affection. You don't need to worry about her being deceived. Why don't you go with her and protect her closely? Liam's face instantly went white. He abruptly released Chloe, the panic in his eyes almost overflowing. Grace. What do you mean by that? I sneered. You're already living together. So lovey-dovey and inseparable. How could I bear to break you apart? Why don't I help you both fulfill your desires, and you two can pack up and leave together? My gaze swept over Chloe's classmates as I added, of course, that includes them too. Liam's face instantly turned beet red. Grace, why are you speaking so harshly? How can you call that living together? You're not home anyway, and such a big house is too much for me alone. So what's wrong with lending it to Chloe to help her out of a tight spot? She's not living there forever. I'll just have her move out when you come back. As for the company, he extended his index finger, pointing at the 4 gilded letters Summit on the wall, his fingertip white from the force. It's clearly written in the appointment letter that I am the legal CEO. What right do you have to fire me? I almost laughed, Liam. The company is called Summit, but you don't actually think it's yours, do you? As if afraid I would expose his lie, Liam anxiously interrupted me, with a hint of almost imperceptible pleading in his eyes. Grace, we're not short on money. Why do you have to be so absolute about this? What good would firing them all do for the company's reputation? How about this? We can acquire another company, and I'll start from scratch with you. With our abilities, making it successful would be effortless for us. Wouldn't it? I felt like I had heard the biggest joke. With our abilities? That's my ability. What does it have to do with you, Liam? It was I who leveraged the Grace family's connections to secure contacts and smooth over obstacles for him. It was I, the privileged daughter of a billionaire, who would condescend to help him close one major deal after another at business dinners. Even the company's system was built by me, and I had been secretly overseeing its internal operations. How could the company have gotten to where it is today without my support? Without me, relying solely on Liam, this man who was all show and no substance, the company would have gone bankrupt 800 times over. Liam's face instantly turned ashen. Unable to utter a single word of defense, his secret exposed. Chloe, however, stepped forward, blocking Liam, and lifted her chin, her face full of self-righteousness. Grace, I have to say something here. The company belongs to Liam, so he decides who to hire. What right do outsiders have to interfere? She emphasized the word outsiders, as if pointing at me. Even if you're his distant relative, it doesn't matter. I raised an eyebrow. Who are you calling his distant relative? Chloe, thinking she had found my weakness, lifted her face triumphantly, her voice growing louder. Liam told me everything a long time ago. You're just a distant relative. Beyond distant, who's staying at his house. Liam is soft-hearted. Seeing that you couldn't find a job, he arranged an assistant position for you at the company. Her eyes were filled with contempt. Who knew you would actually think he liked you and put on airs, never showing up for work a single day, but still getting thousands in salary every month? Chloe's voice was full of indignation for Liam. Grace, hasn't Liam been kind enough to you? Why do you have to come to his company and cause trouble? Just because he doesn't like you. But you can't force feelings. After her words, her classmates instantly erupted. I knew something sounded odd, if it's true, as she claims, that the company relies on her. How come we've never seen her come to work since we've been here so long? Liam and Chloe have been together for over a year. This old and ugly delusional woman with unwarranted confidence actually thought Liam would like her. The murmurs of discussion were endless, but I just chuckled softly. And Chloe had been involved for over a year, even when I was still in the country. All those countless nights I stayed up for the company's IPO, with only the office lights keeping me company. Liam was out on dates with Chloe. He eagerly took on all business trips, softly telling me he didn't want me to work too hard, but it was just an excuse to travel around with Chloe. The moment I went abroad, he couldn't wait to be with Chloe, brazenly using the money I had painstakingly earned to support his mistress. The accusations against me continued. She never even came to work. What right does she have to get paid for nothing? What about us, who come to work every day? Make her give the money back. Nepotism is really something. She's using Liam's money and still causing trouble at the company. Should we call security to throw her out? Fire her. Liam, fire her. Liam slowly raised a hand. Gesturing for everyone to calm down, he looked at me, a smug look of triumph on his face. Grace, stop making a scene. Justice is self-evident. If you leave now, I can pretend today never happened, out of consideration for us being distant relatives. I won't fire you, and I'll continue to pay your salary. Otherwise, don't blame me for showing no mercy. Liam's actions immediately drew widespread praise. Liam is so magnanimous. He's a truly magnanimous leader. I looked at his smug look of triumph and nodded. Okay, I'll go. Liam was perhaps not expecting me to give in so easily. He froze for a moment, then let out a sigh of relief. I lifted my foot and walked out step by step. As I passed Liam, I suddenly stopped and with lightning speed, slapped him across the face. Smack. Liam staggered back half a step. His head snapped to the side, and a bright red handprint quickly appeared on his cheek. He clutched his face, looking at me with a mixture of rage and resentment. Yet afraid to speak, Chloe, however, shrieked, Grace, are you crazy? Her classmates also jumped to Liam's defense, rolling up their sleeves ready to rush at me. I sneered coldly, pulling a document from my handbag and slapping it onto a nearby desk. The red seal was particularly striking under the light. Open your eyes and see clearly. I am the chairperson of Summit. Even the CEO was appointed by me. Try laying a hand on me. The limited edition doll in Chloe's hand clattered to the floor, her eyes wide. She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time, her lips trembling. Chairperson? How is that possible? Her classmates erupted. The girl with pink hair was the first to react, yelling at Liam. Liam, is what she's saying true? Isn't she your distant relative? Yeah, Liam, say something. The guy in overalls also panicked. He had just called me a delusional woman with unwarranted confidence. And now his face was beet red. Liam's face was even uglier than beet red. He suddenly pointed at me, his voice cracking. You forged documents. Grace, you're using even these tactics just to get rid of Chloe? Forged? I sneered, snapping my fingers. The elevator at the end of the corridor chimed open, and my exclusive legal team filed in. Mr. Miller, the lead lawyer, was the Grace family's special legal counsel, having handled more commercial disputes than Liam had eaten meals. The moment I saw the company's financial report, I had messaged him, dressed in sharp black suits, holding file boxes. Their leather shoes clicked uniformly on the floor, instantly quieting the main office area's chatter. Mr. Miller walked up to him and slapped a document on the table. This is Summit Equity Certificate and Business Registration Information. Ms. Grace holds 90% absolute controlling interest in the company and is the legal chairperson. The 10% stock options you hold were gifted by Ms. Grace 3 years ago as a wedding anniversary present, with a clear clause stating that if company interests are harmed, the donor has the right to reclaim them without compensation. Liam's face instantly drained to a ghastly pale. He stumbled back, hitting the wall. Mr. Miller timely presented another document. According to company law and Article 17 of the company's Articles of Association, the chairperson has the right to appoint and dismiss the CEO. You are hereby formally notified, Mr. Liam, that your position as CEO of Summit is terminated. Effective immediately. No. Impossible. Liam suddenly lunged forward like a madman, but he was stopped by the legal team's bodyguards. He roared with red eyes, I built this company step by step. Grace, you can't do this to me. We're husband and wife. After all, husband and wife. I interrupted him, pulling a divorce settlement agreement from my handbag and slapping it onto his face. That ended the moment you brought Chloe into our marital home. Oh. And by the way, I looked at a dumbfounded Chloe. That Riverview apartment you're living in is my premarital property. You have to move out by the end of today, or I'll have a locksmith and movers there at the same time. Chloe burst into tears, grabbing Liam's arm. Liam, this isn't true, is it? Tell her the company and the apartment are yours. Liam collapsed on the floor, staring at the equity certificate, his lips trembling, unable to speak. Mr. Miller turned to the group of disheartened young people, holding a stack of termination notices. Chloe and related personnel Due to not meeting employment standards and severely affecting the company's normal operations, your employment is hereby formally terminated. Please process your departure immediately. Why? Someone shouted, unwilling to accept it. Liam hired us to then go to him for an explanation. I glanced at Liam on the floor. Oh, I forgot to tell you. The excessive salaries he paid you by misappropriating company funds will be recovered by the legal department. This statement was the final straw, completely crushing them. Some knelt on the floor crying, others cursed at Liam. Chloe simply fainted and was dragged out by two bodyguards. Liam suddenly grabbed my pant leg, his eyes full of pleading. Grace, I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I took a step back, avoiding his touch, looking at him as if he were a stranger. A chance? That was gone the moment you cheated with Chloe. As I turned, I glimpsed a few familiar figures standing in the corner of the main office area. They were the key technical staff Liam had fired, who had returned some time earlier. Their eyes filled with tears. They gave me a slight nod. Mr. Miller. I smoothed my sleeve, my voice returning to calm. Notify finance to liquidate Liam's illicit gains and contact human resources to recall the old employees. Also, change the company name back to Grace. The sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, falling on the four gilded letters Summit. Seeming somewhat ironic, I knew that from today on, the rain here would change. When I returned to the Riverview apartment I had meticulously decorated, the moving company workers were already waiting downstairs. I stood in the entryway, looking at the matching throw pillows scattered in the living room, the piles of cosmetics on the vanity table, and the men's and women's clothes mixed in the walk-in closet. Feeling a wave of nausea, all boxes marked in red, moved them to the trash bins downstairs. I handed the list to the team leader, my voice devoid of emotion. Other personal items belonging to Liam should be packed and left by the elevator bank. They will not be waited for past the deadline. The workers quickly began clearing out. Chloe's cartoon-patterned pajamas were crumpled and thrown into large plastic sacks, and Liam's limited edition sneakers, which he claimed to have treasured for years, were casually piled into cardboard boxes. The sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting dazzling spots on the floor, making the items that once symbolized sweetness now look like cheap stage props. Just as they were clearing the bedroom, Chloe's shrill cries came from the stairwell. How dare you touch my things? She rushed into the bedroom, her hair disheveled, her skirt dusty, clearly having run all the way from the company. Seeing the ransacked closet, she suddenly turned to me, her eyes red like a rabbit's. Grace, you've gone too far. Liam won't let you get away with this. No sooner had she spoken than Liam rushed in, breathing heavily, his suit jacket wrinkled, and the slap print had given him yesterday still on his face. Chloe lunged at him as if clutching a lifeline. Liam, look what she's done. She's kicking us out. Liam, however, abruptly shook off her hand with such force that she staggered and hit the closet. He adjusted his collar, quickly walked up to me, and plastered a fawning smile on his face. Grace, listen to me. These are all misunderstandings. Misunderstandings? I raised an eyebrow, watching Chloe's startled face. Let your Chloe hear how you promised me you'd never hire a female assistant, and how you said this house would be our marital home forever. Chloe's crying ceased abruptly. She looked at Liam in disbelief. Liam, is what she's saying true? You're already married? Liam's face instantly turned beet red. He glared viciously at Chloe. Shut up. If you weren't constantly clinging to me, why would Grace be angry? Now get out of here. Stop being in the way. These words pierced Chloe's illusions like an ice pick. She stood frozen, tears silently streaming down her face, her lips trembling. What did you say? You said you would marry me. Marry you? Liam sneered, his disgust unconcealed. Don't you look at your own status? Do you really think I'd divorce a Grace heiress to marry a penniless girl like you? He turned again, trying to curry favor with me, but saw that I had already reached the door. Liam panicked, suddenly dropping to his knees with a thud on the floor, crawling a few steps to hug my ankles, his voice tearful. Grace, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I must have been out of my mind. She seduced me. Please give me another chance, okay? I'll break off all ties with her immediately. I'll apologize to the old employees. I'll run the company properly. He desperately clung to my pant leg, as if grasping a last straw for survival. We've had so many years of history. You can't just throw it all away. I looked down at his pathetic posture, finding it laughable. The dashing man who once promised me a future now knelt on the ground like a beaten dog begging for mercy. Liam, I gently kicked his hand away, my voice cold as ice. it's not me you should be begging. It's the old employees you fired, the squandered company value, and the desecrated marriage. A moving company worker passed by, carrying the last box, which contained Chloe's dolls. A label reading "My Chloe" was still affixed to the box. Chloe suddenly shrieked and lunged to grab it, but the worker impatiently pushed her away. "Don't block the way, expired items are all process." She collapsed to the ground, watching her love fantasies being dragged away one by one, and finally broke down crying. Liam, throughout it all, never looked at her again, only knelt on the ground, repeating "I was wrong," until my footsteps faded away in the stairwell. As the elevator doors slowly closed, I took one last look at the apartment that had once been filled with sunshine. The farce inside had finally ended. As for those people, they were now irrelevant to me. 1 year later, on the day Grace rang the opening bell at NASDAQ, I stood before the exchange's large screen, watching the 4 characters Grace in red on white background appear in the global investor's view. Behind me was the reassembled core team, each person's eyes burning with the same entrepreneurial fire as before. In this year, we had cut several redundant projects Liam had recklessly initiated, refocusing on core technology research and development. The recalled veteran employees, along with new hires, had tackled several tough challenges, and our newly expanded AI business had secured several industry benchmark projects. The market value, which Liam had decimated, had not only recovered but tripled. At the celebration banquet, Mr. Miller approached with a glass of champagne and quietly chuckled. "Chairperson, everyone in the industry is now saying that anyone who dares to hire Liam's crew is going against you." I smiled and clinked glasses, my eyes calm. When the legal department was liquidating Liam's illicit gains, they also compiled evidence of their embezzlement, false performance reports, and wrongful termination of old employees into an industry-wide alert. The industry is a small world. Those with a bankrupt reputation have no place in this industry. Later, I heard from old employees that Chloe and her classmates applied to dozens of companies, but their resumes were returned untouched. Some, unwilling to give up, went to small workshops, only to be fired on the spot due to poor work performance. Eventually, a few of them ended up crammed into a rental in a low-income urban area, arguing daily over who should pay for utilities. Liam fared worse. He was reportedly rejected even for a security guard position because of his resume stating former CEO of a tech company. In the end, he had to wash dishes in a diner on the outskirts of town and sell pirated DVDs at a night market stall in the evenings, barely making ends meet. On a late autumn weekend, Nathan and I met at a trendy cafe in Westside. Nathan was a renowned rising star in the venture capital circle. We met through a collaborative project. He admired my decisive leadership, and I respected his keen business acumen, and gradually we became a couple. He had just returned from a business trip abroad and was showing me a newly discovered project on his tablet. "This biotech company's technological approach is very interesting. Would you like to?" Before he could finish, a figure in a gray server uniform walked over, carrying a tray. Her steps somewhat unsteady, a few drops of the latte on the tray sloshed out, landing squarely on Nathan's pants. "I'm so sorry. So sorry." The person apologized frantically, her voice carrying a familiar timidity. The moment I looked up, my eyes met his. Liam was wearing a faded uniform, his hair greasy and matted to his forehead. His once dashing face was etched with fatigue, and there was an unhealed burn on the web of his hand. He clearly recognized me too, his pupils constricting sharply. The tray in his hand clattered to the floor, and cups shattered everywhere. All eyes immediately turned toward us. Liam's face instantly turned beet red, and he frantically crouched to pick up the broken glass. Not even noticing his finger getting cut, he just buried his head lower and lower, like a startled ostrich. The manager, alerted by the commotion, rushed over. Seeing the mess on the floor, she barked furiously. "Liam, that's the 5th set of cups you've broken this month. If you don't want to work, then get out." Liam's shoulders trembled violently, his lips quivering as he struggled to speak. Nathan frowned, about to speak, but I gently pressed his hand. I calmly pulled a tissue from my bag and deliberately wiped the coffee stain from the table corner, my voice as level as if I were commenting on the weather. "It's fine, we'll just switch seats." As I walked past Liam, he suddenly looked up, his eyes bloodshot, and asked hoarsely, "Grace, can you give me another chance?" I didn't even pause, simply replying coolly, "Liam, you should have paid for what you broke a long time ago." Nathan followed close behind, pulling out a chair at our new table for me. he asked softly. Are you okay? I smiled, taking the warm water he offered. I've been fine for a long time. Sunlight filtered through the sycamore leaves outside the window, casting dappled shadows on the table. Nathan reopened his tablet, discussing the data on the screen with me. When he occasionally looked up, the tenderness in his eyes was like melted honey. In the distance, Liam was still clumsily clearing the broken pieces from the floor, his back hunched like an old man, but none of it had anything to do with me anymore. The betrayal and disgrace had long been washed away by newfound strength, leaving behind only an increasingly brighter future. At industry's 3rd anniversary celebration, I stood on stage as the chairperson, looking out at the packed audience of industry elites and Nathan standing beside me. Suddenly, I recalled that humiliating morning 3 years ago when I returned to the country. Back then, I probably never imagined that a single betrayal could completely tear apart false affection, allowing me to rebuild an even stronger castle from the ruins. Next, please welcome Grace to unveil our strategic plan for the next quarter. The host's voice pulled me back to reality. I took the microphone, my gaze sweeping across the audience. The veteran CTO sat in the front row, a few more gray hairs at his temples, but looking more spirited than 3 years ago. Mr. Miller nodded slightly at me, his eyes behind his glasses conveying approval. And the employees whom Liam had fired and I had brought back, each of them wore a proud, shared sense of honor on their faces. Grace's next goal is the stars and the sea. I smiled, pressed the remote control, and a cooperation agreement with a top international laboratory appeared on the large screen. We will invest $1 billion in R&D funds to overcome bottleneck technology in the chip sector. As the audience burst into thunderous applause, Nathan subtly touched my hand, his palm warm. After the celebration, we walked side by side through the corporate park under the moonlight. The evening breeze lifted my skirt, and he naturally took off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders. On stage, when you mentioned never compromise, your eyes were shining. I looked up at him. The stars in his eyes shone brighter than those in the sky, because I know compromise doesn't earn respect. Only strength does. He suddenly stopped, took a velvet box from his pocket, and knelt on one knee. Grace, I no longer want to be just your business partner. Will you let me be a permanent fixture in your future plans? The diamond on the ring refracted fragmented light under the moonlight, much like the sunlight that poured through the French windows on the day I regained control of the company. As I smiled and nodded, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. In the photo, Chloe was wearing a cheap promotional uniform, standing in front of a supermarket display holding an advertisement board, her eyes blank. In the background of the photo, a familiar figure was bending down to pick up vegetable scraps from the ground. It was Liam. Below the message was a line of text. Grace, please be merciful. We really can't survive anymore. I casually deleted the message and tucked my phone back into my bag. Nathan took my hand. What's wrong? Nothing, I said, looking up at him with a light smile. Just thinking how lucky I am that I never looked back. Later, Mr. Miller told me that Liam and Chloe eventually broke up. Apparently, after I rejected him at the cafe that day, Liam went back and had a huge fight with Chloe. They got into a physical altercation over who should pay the rent, and the neighbors eventually called the police. Later, some people saw Chloe handing out flyers in the busiest commercial district, being chased by security guards. Others said they saw Liam under a bridge, begging with a broken bowl, mumbling, "I used to be a CEO." But these were just rumors, like a breeze across a lake. After stirring ripples, it eventually settles into calm. Nathan and I set our wedding for spring, filling Grace Corporate Park with crabapple trees. On the day they bloomed, an old employee smiled and said, "Grace, these flowers are as beautiful as your name," touching the baby in my belly, just 3 months old, and watching Nathan take photos of me among the flowers. I suddenly understood the best ending was never about revenge, but about living my own life better than ever before. The quagmire that once tried to drag you down would eventually become the soil that nourished your bloom. And those who weren't worth it had already been completely eliminated the moment you turned away. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comment section.